The rain hammered against the reinforced glass of his penthouse, a frantic, percussive rhythm that Julian Thorne usually found soothing. It was white noise, the sound of the world being washed clean, far below his 100th floor perch. Tonight it was an irritant. His hand, steady as a surgeon's, paused its fluid signature on a 9-figure acquisition document. He'd felt a vibration from his tailored suit jacket pocket, not his phone. That was a silent, ominous black slab on the desk. He reached inside the breast pocket, his brow furrowing. His fingers brushed not the smooth silk of the lining, but cheap, pebbled plastic and sharp, unyielding glitter. He pulled the object out. A small pink diary, embossed with a cartoon cat whose eyes were too big, sealed with a flimsy, heart-shaped lock. He stared at it. He hadn't hailed a cab in, he estimated, 8 years. But today, with his driver, Mikhail, caught in a diplomatic gridlock surrounding the UN, he had been forced to. The memory surfaced, unwelcome and grainy. The frantic scramble at the curb near St. Barnaby's, a young woman, thin and pale, pulling a small child out of the taxi just as he'd impatiently climbed in. The child had a small, neat blonde head. This must be hers. He scoffed, a dry, mirthless sound in the cavernous room. A child's trinket. He weighed it in his hand, his thumb unconsciously rubbing the cheap plastic jewel on the lock, and tossed it toward the waste bin. It was a precise, dismissive arc, but the flimsy lock, weakened by the throw, snapped. The diary hit the obsidian floor not as a single object, but as an explosion of paper falling open. A single page, torn loose, skated across the polished stone and came to rest against the toe of his bench-made leather shoe. He glared at it, annoyed by the interruption. He bent to retrieve it, to crumple it properly. But the writing, large and looping, rendered in a bright purple crayon, caught his eye. "Dear King, Mommy says we have to be brave, but I think she's scared. The medicine smells bad. I wish you could find us. I saw your castle in a magazine. It's so tall. I know you're up there. I hope you can see us." Julian Thorne froze. He straightened, the page held delicately between 2 fingers. He walked to the window, the paper dwarfed by his hand, the city lights of Manhattan glittering like a carpet of shattered diamonds below. "I saw your castle." He looked down, not at the city, but at the small, torn page. He crouched, slowly, and picked up the diary itself. The cover was damp, smelling faintly of rain and cheap strawberry-scented plastic. He sat, not in his $50,000 ergonomic chair, but on the hard, cold floor of his penthouse, his immaculate suit forgotten. And he began to read. The diary was not a diary, not in the traditional sense. It was a collection of letters, reports, and wishes, all addressed to the king. The king, it seemed, lived in a tall glass castle and was in charge of making things better. The handwriting was a child's, sometimes in crayon, sometimes in a wavering pencil, the erasures tearing holes in the thin-lined paper. "Dear King, today is a bad needle day. Mommy cried in the bathroom. I pretended I was asleep. I drew a picture of her with her long hair. She liked it. She doesn't have much hair now. She says it will grow back. She is a bad liar. I love her." Julian's throat tightened. He, a man who dismantled corporations by lunchtime, who could predict market fluctuations to the decimal point, felt a strange, cold pressure in his chest. He turned the page. "Dear King, my name is Lily. I am 7. My mommy's name is Sarah. She is the best. She sings a song about a yellow bird. She hasn't sung it in a long time. I have $14 in my secret box. It is for the transplant. That is a word for a new garden. I think it means they will plant a new part in Mommy and she will grow strong again. I hope it doesn't cost more than $14. I don't think it does. But just in case, I am saving. He read on, the city fading, the acquisition forgotten, the entire, sterile, controlled world he had built for himself, dissolving page by page. He read of their tiny apartment, of the clanging monster in the wall, a faulty radiator, of the kindness of a nurse named Estella, of the taste of lime-green jello, which was the only thing Sarah could eat for a week. He read about their adventure days, which consisted of taking the M15 bus to the library and pretending they were on a safari. And he read about the fear. It was a child's interpretation of fear, but it was all the more potent for it. "Dear King, Mommy is sleeping. She sleeps all the time. I am scared. I lost my favorite yellow ribbon. It is okay. I don't need it. I need Mommy. Please, if you are real, come to St. Barnaby's. I will be in the kids' room. It has a picture of a boat. I will wait for you. I promise to be good." He closed the diary. The silence of the penthouse was absolute. It was 10 hot p.m. He hadn't moved in over an hour. He stood, his knees cracking in protest. He walked to his desk and buzzed his intercom. His night shift executive assistant, a ruthlessly efficient woman named Ms. Evans, answered instantly. "Yes, Mr. Thorne?" "Evans, I need you to find someone. A woman named Sarah and her daughter, Lily, age 7. The mother is a patient at St. Barnaby's. Oncology, I assume. The child. She has neat blonde hair." His voice was hoarse. There was a pause. Ms. Evans was accustomed to tracking down rogue CEOs, rebel shareholders, and elusive data scientists. Not children. "St. Barnaby's, sir? The public hospital in the East Village?" The unspoken question hung in the air. "That hospital?" "Yes, use every resource. I want a full profile on my desk. I am canceling my morning, all of it." "Sir, the Tokyo merger. It's 11:00 a.m. in Tokyo. They've been waiting for this call for... The call is canceled. Find them, Evans. Find them now." He cut the connection. He looked at the pink diary on his desk. It looked alien, a piece of soft, bright reality in his world of chrome and shadow. "I saw your castle in a magazine." He realized with a jolt that the taxi had dropped the woman and child off near the hospital and picked him up just blocks from his own building, the Thorne Dynamics Tower, the castle. She had been writing to him. The next morning, Julian did something he never did. He skipped his 6 a.m. market analysis, his 7 a.m. session with his trainer, and his 8 a.m. board briefing. At 9 a.m., he was not in his office. He was standing in the lobby of St. Barnaby's Hospital. The contrast was jarring. His penthouse was silent, scented with expensive, curated air. The hospital lobby was a cacophony of beeping pagers, crying, coughing, and the acrid, unmistakable smell of industrial disinfectant, stale coffee, and human sickness. It was a place of raw, unfiltered desperation. He, in his bespoke $1,000 suit, with his neatly trimmed stubble and immaculate grooming, was a creature from another planet. People stared, then quickly looked away, too consumed by their own private miseries to spare him more than a glance. The file Ms. Evans had emailed him at 4:32 a.m. was precise. Sarah Jensen, age 29, diagnosis, acute myeloid leukemia, AML, relapsed, in urgent need of a bone marrow transplant, prognosis, poor, insurance, state provided, inadequate, next of kin, Lily Jensen. Father, unknown, address, a tenement walk-up 3 blocks away. He found the pediatric oncology wing. It was aggressively cheerful, painted with murals of cartoon jungles and smiling suns that felt almost violent in their brightness. He saw the room. The kids' room. It had a picture of a boat, just as the diary had said. And sitting in a small plastic chair, humming softly to a worn-out teddy bear, was the girl. She was exactly as he'd seen her, and exactly as the diary had painted her. Fair skin, neat blonde hair pulled into 2 small pigtails, wearing clean but faded pink overalls. She was tiny. She was drawing, her tongue sticking out in concentration. He stood in the doorway, a towering, dark-suited man. He felt obscenely large, an intruder. Lily looked up. Her eyes widened. She didn't look scared. She looked expectant. She slowly stood up, placing her crayon down. "You got my book," she whispered. It wasn't a question. Julian's voice, a voice that commanded boardrooms, failed him. He cleared his throat. "Yes." He held out the small pink diary. "You left it. In a taxi." She walked toward him, her small sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. She took the diary and clutched it to her chest. "I was worried. I thought you'd never find it." She looked up at him, her gaze so direct, so unnervingly clear. "Are you the king?" Julian's entire, carefully constructed world tilted on its axis. My name is Julian. Julian the king." She nodded, as if this were perfectly logical. "I'm Lily. This is Mommy's room." She pointed to the door opposite. "She's sleeping. The doctor is in there. He's a pesky mist." "Mommy says it means he's a very sad doctor." "A pessimist," Julian corrected, his voice quiet. "Yes, that." She looked at the closed door, her small face clouded with an adult's worry. Is the $14 not enough?" Julian felt the cold pressure in his chest again, stronger this time. He crouched down, an unfamiliar and awkward motion, bringing himself closer to her level. "No, Lily, it's not enough." Her face crumpled. A single, perfect tear welled and rolled down her cheek. "I knew it. I tried to sell my bear, but Mommy found out and she cried." "But," Julian said quickly, his voice rough, "that's not your job. Your job isn't to find the money." "Whose job is it?" she asked, her voice a small, desperate plea. Julian looked at this tiny, 7-year-old child, carrying a burden that would crush most men. He looked at the grim hospital hallway, at the mural of the smiling, idiotic monkey. He made a decision. It was not a business decision. It was not logical, or profitable, or strategic. It was an impulse, raw and undeniable. "It's mine," he said. Just then, the door to the room opened. A tired-looking doctor stepped out, followed by a woman. She was thin, her skin had a pale, translucent quality, and her head was wrapped in a soft blue scarf. But even in her faded hospital gown and robe, she carried herself with a fierce, brittle dignity. This was Sarah. She saw her daughter, crouched on the floor, talking to an immaculately dressed stranger, and her eyes, large and exhausted, flashed with fire. "Lily, get away from him! Who are you?" Her voice was weak but sharp. Lily ran to her mother's side, hiding behind her robe. "It's okay, Mommy. It's the king. He found my book." Sarah looked at the diary in Lily's hand, then at Julian. Her face, already pale, went ashen, then flushed with a deep, humiliating red. She understood instantly. He had read it. This stranger, this man who looked like he owned the entire world, had read her daughter's private, desperate, childish fantasies. He had read about their poverty, their fear. "Give me that," Sarah snapped, not at Julian, but at Lily. She snatched the diary. "You. I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but we don't want your... She struggled for the word. "We don't need anything from you." "Mommy, no, he's here to help," Lily cried. "I am here to help," Julian said, standing to his full height. He pulled out his wallet, a sleek black alligator skin rectangle. This was the language he understood. This was the solution. "Your daughter's diary." It was moving. "Your cajole." "Situation. I'd like to cover all of Ms. Jensen's medical expenses, all of them, and the transplant, whatever it costs." He held out a black, impossibly heavy credit card. "My assistant can arrange everything. You won't have to worry again." He expected relief. He expected tears of gratitude. He got a slap. It wasn't a powerful slap. Sarah was weak, but the sharp, stinging crack of it echoed in the cheerful hallway. Julian's head snapped to the side, more from shock than from force. He touched his cheek, stunned. "Get out," Sarah whispered, her voice shaking with a rage that seemed to be the only thing holding her upright. "Get out. We are not your charity case. We are not some pathetic story you read so you can feel good about yourself. I will not have my daughter's hope be a rich man's hobby. Do you understand me? We want nothing from you." Lily was sobbing now. "Mommy, no. You're being mean. He's the king." "He is not a king, Lily. He's just a man. A man with a checkbook. And we don't need it." Sarah grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her back into the hospital room, slamming the door shut with a final, rattling bang. Julian stood alone in the hallway, his cheek stinging. The smiling monkey on the wall seemed to mock him. For the first time in his adult life, Julian Thorne had made an offer that was refused. He had offered a perfect, simple, financial solution to a problem, and the answer had been a resounding, violent no. He was baffled. He was furious, and beneath it all, he was intrigued. He was a man who solved puzzles, and he had just been handed the most complex one of his life. He touched his cheek again, then slowly, deliberately, he straightened his tie, turned, and walked out of the pediatric wing. But he did not leave the hospital. He went to the administration. Within 30 minutes, he was in the office of the hospital's CEO, a flustered man named Dr. Aris. The man had seen the name Julian Thorne on the unscheduled visitor log and had personally come to the lobby. "Mr. Thorne, this is an incredible, surprise. To what do we owe the honor? Are you considering a new philanthropic wing? The Aris wing has a certain ring, don't you think?" Julian sat, not accepting the offered coffee. He was all business now. "Dr. Aris, I am interested in a patient, Sarah Jensen, oncology, room 412B. Dr. Aris's smile faltered. "Mr. Thorne, patient confidentiality. I'm afraid I can't possibly. I am not interested in her medical chart." Julian cut in, his voice like ice. "I am interested in her survival. I'm told she needs a bone marrow transplant. What is the holdup?" Dr. Aris relaxed, then leaned forward conspiratorially. "Ah, a personal interest. Understood. The holdup, Mr. Thorne, is twofold. First, the cost, the procedure, the donor search, the post-operative care. It's astronomical. Her state insurance will cover a fraction. We are, to be frank, a public hospital. We can't absorb that kind of loss, especially with her prognosis. And the prognosis is poor because of the second problem," Julian stated. "Exactly. The match. Miss Jensen has a particularly rare HLA type. We've searched the national and international registries. Nothing, not a single viable match. Her family? She has none. Her parents are deceased. The father of the child is not on record. Then, it's a tragic case, Mr. Thorne, truly. We see them every day. We're keeping her comfortable. Palliative care is our only real option at this point." Julian stared at the man. Palliative, a word for giving up. "No," he said. "Sir? No. Palliative is not an option. You will assemble a new team. The best. You will fly them in. I don't care from where. Seoul, Zurich, Tel Aviv. You will get me the head of hematology from every major hospital in the world on a conference call. And you will expand the donor search." Aris was pale. "Mr. Thorne, what you are describing, that isn't just money. That is millions. Tens of millions. To expand the search, to sequence. We don't have the infrastructure. You do now." Julian stood. "Thorne Dynamics has one of the most powerful data processing networks on the planet. We use it to predict oil futures. As of 2 minutes ago, we are using it to find a single piece of human code. I am seconding my entire R&D data team to this hospital. They will report to your head of oncology. They will build you a new registry. They will search, sequence, and cross-reference every donor database on Earth until they find a match. And as for the cost, my foundation will be wiring an endowment of $50 million to this wing. Not for a new name, not for a plaque, but for this. For Sarah Jensen. And for every child in that wing who needs more than the state can give. Is that clear? Dr. Aris was speechless. He just nodded, his mouth slightly open. Good, Julian said. Now, I need a room. Here, in the hospital, and a suit. Not this. He gestured to his own expensive clothes. Scrubs, or whatever your doctors wear. And I want 24/7 access. No one is to know who I am. I'm a consultant. A data specialist. Understood? Yes, Mr. Thorne, absolutely. Julian walked out, past the stunned administrator. He knew Sarah would never accept his money. She would never accept Julian Thorne, the billionaire. But she was a fighter. She might, just might, accept a partner in the fight. He just had to become someone she could accept. He spent the next 3 days in a small, windowless office that smelled of burnt coffee and ozone. He wore ill-fitting blue scrubs that felt abrasive against his skin. He slept on a cot. He worked. He hadn't worked like this, with this singular, desperate focus, since he'd built his first algorithm in a dorm room 20 years ago. He and his team, led by a baffled but brilliant Ms. Evans, who had flown in from London, were tearing the digital world apart. They weren't just searching registries, they were building predictive models, running algorithms against genetic databases to find potential matches that hadn't even been registered yet, pinpointing populations and individuals who had a high statistical probability of being a match and dispatching teams to test them. It was a brute force assault on statistical impossibility. On the 4th day, he took a break. His eyes burned. His stubble was now a rough, unkempt beard, and he realized he hadn't eaten in 12 hours. He went to the cafeteria, and he saw her. Lily. She was sitting alone at a table, meticulously arranging French fries into a log cabin. He got a coffee. It was as terrible as he remembered, and sat down opposite her. She looked up, her face lighting up. King Julian, you're in a costume. Are you a doctor? Something like that, he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. I'm helping with the computers to find the new garden. She nodded gravely. I know. Mommy told me. She said she was mean to you. She's sorry. She has a right to be angry, Julian said, sipping the coffee. It was sludge. She's not angry, Lily said quietly. She's scared. The doctors are using big words again, and Nurse Estella gave me 2 jellos today. She only does that on very bad days. Her small voice wobbled. Lily. Julian put his cup down. I promise you, every computer, every scientist I know is working on this. We will find it. Pinky promise? She held out her tiny, French fry-greased pinky finger. Julian, a man who signed contracts with ironclad penalty clauses, looked at her finger. He slowly uncurled his own and hooked it around hers. Pinky promise. Good. She smiled, a quick, brilliant flash of light. Do you know how to play Go Fish? For the next hour, Julian Thorne, the titan of industry, played Go Fish with a 7-year-old girl in a hospital cafeteria. He lost, spectacularly and repeatedly. And for the first time in his life, he didn't care. He was learning a new language, not of balance sheets and stock options, but of, do you have any sevens? And the specific rustling sound of a small girl trying to shuffle cards that were too big for her hands. He was there, laughing at a terrible joke Lily had told when Sarah found them. She stood a few feet away, her arms crossed, watching. Her face was pale. The scarf on her head was a different color today, a pale green. She looked impossibly fragile, but her eyes were sharp. Julian's laugh died in his throat. He stood. "Ms. Jensen, Sarah, you're still here," she said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement of disbelief. "I thought, after I—" "You were right," Julian said. "My approach was clumsy, arrogant." "Yes," she agreed, a small, tired smile touching her lips. "It was." She looked at Lily, who was beaming at them both. "She hasn't laughed like that in a month. Dr. Aris told me what you're doing, what you've deployed. He called it Operation Yellowbird. After the song I sing to her." Julian felt a flush of heat rise up his neck. Evans. That had to be Evans's idea. It's a brute force data problem," he said, defaulting to what he knew. "My company is built for it." "You didn't have to," Sarah said, her voice soft. "You could have just left. I slapped you." "I've been hit harder by the SEC," Julian said, and was surprised to see her smile again, a genuine, if fleeting, smile. I can't pay you back. Not for the computers. Not for the go fish. That's not what I'm here for." "Then why are you here, Mr. Thorne?" she asked, her gaze steady, searching his face. "No one does this. No one tears their world apart for a stranger they found in a taxi." Julian looked at Lily, who was now carefully building a new fry cabin, humming the Yellowbird song under her breath. He thought about his penthouse, so high and clean and silent. He thought about the endless, sterile meetings, the ruthless acquisitions, the profound, crushing emptiness of it all. "I was a very rich man, Sarah," he said, his voice quiet. "And I was dying of nothing. I think you and Lily. I think you're saving my life." It was an admission so raw, so honest, it shocked him to have said it. Sarah held his gaze for a long moment, the skepticism in her eyes warring with a new, dawning hope. Finally, she nodded, a small, jerky motion. "Well," she said, her voice rough, "if you're staying, King Julian, you should know the coffee in the doctor's lounge is marginally better. I'll show you." It was a truce, an invitation. As he followed her, with Lily skipping ahead, he felt something shift in his chest, a tectonic plate of his own frozen world finally breaking free. The days that followed blurred into a new, strange routine. Julian, Ms. Evans, and their team worked in 24-hour shifts. The Operation Yellowbird databank grew exponentially. They had, in effect, created the world's most advanced and comprehensive genetic donor database, all in the service of finding one match. Julian split his time between the high-pressure, adrenaline-fueled work in the data center and the quiet, emotionally fraught hours he spent with Sarah and Lily. He learned their life. He learned that Sarah had been a graphic designer, talented but unsuccessful, drowning in student debt before she got sick. He learned she had a wicked, dry sense of humor. He learned she was terrified of needles, but never let Lily see. He read to Lily while Sarah slept. Not financial reports, but books about dragons and brave princesses and talking animals. He held Sarah's hand during a particularly brutal chemo session, her fingers gripping his with surprising strength, her eyes screwed shut, her knuckles white. He said nothing. He just stayed. His old life tried to intrude. His board was in open revolt. The Tokyo merger was dead, and their main rival, Aperture, was sensing blood in the water. "Julian, they're preparing a hostile takeover," his COO had screamed at him over the phone. "They're framing you as emotionally compromised and unstable. You haven't been seen at the tower in 2 weeks. You are jeopardizing everything." "I'm busy," Julian had said, watching through a window as Lily showed a nurse her latest drawing. Busy? Julian, this is your empire. You have a fiduciary duty. I have a pinky promise to keep, Julian said and hung up. He instructed Miss Evans to handle it. She looked at him, her eyes wide over her laptop. Sir, they're not wrong. Aperture is moving. They're going to use your absence to leverage a vote of no confidence. Then let them, Julian said, turning back to the databank. Find me the match, Evans. That's the only merger I care about. Ms. Evans stared at his back. The man she'd worked for, the cold calculating strategist, was gone. In his place was this, obsessive, exhausted, human being. And she found, to her immense surprise, she preferred this version. Yes, sir, she said, her voice soft. I'll handle Aperture. The breakthrough came, as they always do, not with a trumpet blast, but with a quiet beep. It was 3:17 a.m. Julian was asleep at his desk, his face pressed against a printout of genetic markers. A young data scientist, a prodigy Julian had poached from MIT, tapped his shoulder. Mr. Thorne, sir, I think we've got one. Julian was awake instantly. Where? It's not a perfect match, not a 10-10, but it's a 9-10, a viable haplo match, high probability of success given her condition. It's a strange file. It was in a sealed private registry in Zurich. A private. Fertility Bank's donor list. We bypassed some firewalls. I don't care if you bypass the Pentagon, Julian said, grabbing the file. Who is it? Get them on a plane. The data scientist hesitated. That's the problem, sir. The donor is listed as anonymous, but the file is cross-linked, the other party on the account. It's sealed. But I ran the encryption key. Who, damn it? The account. It's yours, sir, from your first marriage. The registry was for Elena Thorne. Julian dropped the file. Elena, his ex-wife. They hadn't spoken in 6 years. Their divorce had been a brutal, scorched earth affair, a collision of two equally cold, equally powerful egos. He had been sterile. She had wanted a child. They had explored every option, including private donors, building a file of potential matches. A file that had apparently sat dormant in a Swiss vault, a ghost of a life they never had. The match. It wasn't Elena. It was an anonymous donor they had selected together years ago for a child he could never have. A donor who shared a rare genetic marker with Sarah. The irony was so bitter, so profound, it almost choked him. Get me a location on Elena, he said, his voice a low growl. I don't care what time it is. Get her on the phone. Elena Thorne was in Dubai, overseeing the construction of a new art museum. It was noon there. When her private assistant told her Julian Thorne was on the line, she almost dropped her phone. Julian, she said, her voice as cool and controlled as he remembered. To what do I owe this? Blast from the past? Did your lawyers find a new asset to fight over? Elena, I need your help, he said. That stopped her. He had never, not once in the entire decade they had known each other, said those words. What's wrong? She asked, her tone shifting from ice to mere frost. He told her. He told her everything. About the taxi, the diary, the little girl, the illness, the databank. And he told her about the file in Zurich. Our file? She whispered. The emotional armor she wore was, for a moment, cracked. The donor. For us. Yes, he's a match, Elena. A 9-10 match for this woman. But he's anonymous. I can't get to him. But you. We. As the account holders. You can unseal it. You can give us his name. There was a long silence on the line. Julian could hear the faint sound of traffic in Dubai. You're at a public hospital, she said, trying to process the image. In scrubs, playing Go Fish. Yes. And you're spending millions to save a stranger. Yes. Who? Who are you? She asked, her voice filled with genuine, unfeigned confusion. I'm the man I should have been, he said. Please, Elena. A woman is dying. A little girl is about to be an orphan. You. You always wanted to save someone. You always wanted to be a mother. This is a way. Save this child's mother. Another silence, longer this time. I'm not in Zurich, Julian. I can't just walk in. I have a jet on the tarmac at Al Maktoum, Julian said, already moving. It will have you in Zurich in 6 hours. My team will meet you. All you have to do is sign. Authorize the release. And what if I say no? She tested him. I know you won't, he said. And he did. For all their bitterness, he knew that one, core part of her. She was not cruel. You've changed, Julian, she whispered. My God, you've actually changed. She took a deep breath. I'm on my way to the airport. The next 72 hours were a blur. Elena flew to Zurich. She signed the papers. The donor, a university professor in Helsinki, was located. He was stunned, but agreed. He was flown to New York, rushed to St. Barnaby's. The transplant was prepared, but Sarah was fading. The last round of chemo, meant to prepare her for the transplant, had almost killed her. She was weak, febrile, and drifting in and out of consciousness. The doctors were worried. She's septic, Julian, the head of oncology told him, his face grim. Her body is just giving up. The transplant. It might be too late. It might kill her. You have to try, Julian insisted, his voice cracking. You have to. It's not my call. It's hers, and she's not lucid. Julian went to her room. Lily was asleep on a cot in the corner, clutching her teddy bear, her face stained with tears. Julian sat by Sarah's bed. Her skin was waxy, her breathing shallow. He took her hand. It was cold. Sarah, it's Julian. Listen to me. We found him. The donor. He's here. He's in this building. The garden. It's ready. But you have to fight. You have to hold on. Do you hear me? You cannot leave her. You cannot leave me. He was weeping now. Tears he didn't know he had, falling onto their joined hands. I'm not done. I'm not done learning how to play Go Fish. You're not done singing Yellow Bird. Fight, damn it, fight. Her eyelids flickered. Her fingers, impossibly weak, tightened on his. Julian, she whispered, her voice a dry rasp. I'm here. The king came after all. I'm here. I'm right here. Good, she whispered. Tell Lily to be brave. Tell her. No. His voice was iron. You tell her yourself. We're doing this. The doctors are scared. I'm not. You're not. We are doing this. She looked at him, and in her fever-bright eyes he saw a spark. The fighter. Okay, she breathed. Okay, let's plant the damn garden. The transplant was the single most terrifying night of Julian's life. He sat in the waiting room, not the sterile, private one they offered him, but the main surgical waiting room with all the other families. He was just one of them. Ms. Evans sat with him, forgoing her own work, simply present. And, in a surprising, shocking move, Elena had flown in from Zurich. She sat on his other side. They didn't speak. They just sat. A strange, broken, rebuilt family. At 5:12 a.m. the surgeon came out. He pulled off his cap, his face etched with exhaustion, but his eyes were smiling. It's done, he said. The graft is in. She's a fighter. She's stable. She's in recovery. It's a success, Mr. Thorne. It's a miracle. But it's a success. Julian put his head in his hands and sobbed. a deep, racking sound that came from the very core of his soul. Elena, his cold, distant ex-wife, put her hand on his back and left it there. The recovery was long. It was brutal. There were setbacks, a near rejection, a terrifying infection. But through it all, Julian stayed. He had, in effect, moved his entire company's headquarters to a converted wing of St. Barnaby's. The Aperture takeover had failed, spectacularly. When Ms. Evans, at Julian's insistence, had shown the board of Thorn Dynamics what Operation Yellowbird had actually built, the most sophisticated predictive genetic database in existence, they didn't see a distracted CEO. They saw a visionary. They saw the next frontier of Thorn Dynamics. They didn't just reject Aperture's offer. They countersued and started a new multi-billion-dollar biotech division, the Yellowbird Initiative. Julian, however, was mostly concerned with Lily's reading lessons and Sarah's white blood cell count. 3 months later, it was spring. A bright, crisp, impossibly hopeful spring day. They were in Central Park. Not the secret garden from the diary, but the real one. Sarah was in a wheelchair, frail, her hair a soft, downy fuzz on her head, but her cheeks had color. Her eyes were bright. Lily, who had grown an inch, was chasing a butterfly, her laughter a sound that, to Julian, was more valuable than any stock ticker. Julian, in a simple sweater and jeans, was pushing the chair. "She looks good," he said quietly. "She feels good," Sarah replied, her voice stronger. She said her blood feels new. Like it's humming. It is. They sat by the lake, watching Lily. Elena was there, too. She'd stayed in New York. She and Julian had talked. Really talked, for the first time in their lives. There was no romance. That was long dead. But there was a deep, profound friendship, forged in the trenches of a shared, desperate fight. She had become, strangely, Aunt Elena to Lily. She was sitting on the grass, teaching Lily how to make a daisy chain. "You know," Sarah said, looking at Julian, I never thanked you for my life." "You did," Julian said. "You slapped me. You woke me up. Still, you moved the world, Julian. For us. I just ran the numbers," he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "It was a good investment. The return, it's immeasurable." Lily ran up to them, her face flushed with joy. She was holding her diary. Not the old, battered pink one, a new one. A beautiful, leather-bound journal, with a real, solid, brass key. Julian had given it to her. "Mommy, Julian, I have a new entry," she declared, flopping onto the grass at their feet. She opened it. Her handwriting was stronger now, more confident. "Dear Diary," she read, stumbling slightly on the new name. "I used to write to a king, but I don't need to anymore, because I found out kings aren't real. But Julian is. And Mommy's hair is growing back. It's brown, and Aunt Elena is teaching me French, and Julian is teaching me chess, but he's bad at it, just like Go Fish." Julian sputtered a laugh. "I am not." "You are," Lily giggled. She continued reading. "Today we are in the park. It is not a secret garden. It's a real one, and everyone is here," Mommy said. "Mommy said we are a family. She said families are just people who show up and fight for each other, so I guess I have the biggest family in the world." She looked up, her blue eyes, so clear and bright, finding Julian's. "I'm done writing for today. It's your turn, Julian. You write something." She handed him the book and the pen. Sarah was watching him, her face full of a love so deep and clear, it almost hurt to look at. Elena was smiling, a real warm smile. Julian took the pen. His hand, which had signed checks that could buy countries, trembled slightly. He looked at the blank, cream-colored page. He thought of the man he was, in his cold glass castle. and the man he was now, sitting on the grass in a park, surrounded by these warriors. He put the pen to the paper. "Dear Lily," he wrote, "thank you. You were right. I was in a castle, but I was the one who was trapped. You and your mom. You were the ones who rescued me. I'm finally home." He closed the book and handed it back to her, his hand covering hers. The little girl with the pink diary had been searching for a king, and in the process, she had saved a man. We hope this story moved you. Stories like these, of unexpected connections and profound acts of kindness, remind us of the power we all have to change a life. If you believe in the magic of a second chance, in the hope that finds us in our darkest hour, and in the love that builds families in the most unexpected ways, please share this story with someone you know. You never know who might need to hear it. And follow us for more content that inspires, uplifts, and reminds us of the good in the world.